Well, welcome everybody. This is Pastor John. We have an opportunity right now to have our time where we get to know people that we're partnering with around the world. This is what we call our missions moment. And so this month we have the privilege of actually meeting with Pastor David Robles. We've been partnering with him for several years in Leon, Spain. He's pastoring and planted a church there. And so I'm going to introduce him and his ministry to you. And so David, welcome. Good to see you. And why don't you go ahead and introduce your lovely family to us?
Well, thank you, John. Very good to see you. Hi to everybody. We are very grateful for this partnership, and we always enjoy seeing you. We were just last summer there, and we are really grateful to be able to share a little bit about what guys are doing in Spain now. So Loida, my wife, is with me, and our three girls. Abby in the middle is our oldest. She's 15 years old. Noah on my left, she's 13. And Sophia, our little one, not a little anymore, is 9, turning 10 in just a couple months.
And so girls, is it true that Pastor John is like your favorite person that you wanted to have come over there, or is that just, or how are you girls doing, by the way? Tell us girls a little bit about your schooling now. It's different, right? So what's going on with your schooling now that COVID has happened?
Yeah, so we weren't allowed to be homeschooled before COVID happened, but since it hit really hard in Spain, we had to start doing homeschool instead of going to school. So that's been an exciting thing because we've always wanted to do homeschool. So it's been a really nice opportunity.
Well, it's interesting that you said that because you're saying is that in Spain, they actually legally don't allow you to homeschool. So this is kind of like force the whole country to homeschool. So Lloyd, that brings up a question. Are you mentally actually still here now that the girls have been with you for 3 months straight in the home? Because there was a time, right, where you guys couldn't even get out of the house. They wouldn't even let you take a walk, right? I mean, you're literally like locked into that house, right?
Well, it has its challenges at times, but overall, it's been a great opportunity to be with each other because the school system here is very demanding. So usually it is hard really to make room for just chatting and just playing games together, whatever. So we really have enjoyed this confinement as a family, and it has given us challenges, but also many opportunities to deal with it, to grow in the Lord and all of that. So overall, I am super happy.
Oh, good to hear. Well, you guys, anything about, as far as the family that we can pray for you guys going through this COVID things, or any issues, girls or Loida or David, regarding the family that we can pray for?
Well, the girls are in their final 2 weeks of school here in Spain. And they also do music school. They go to a conservatory. So just one prayer will be that they will be able to finish well. And also for the rest of the summer, we have to cancel our summer kids camps and teenager camps. So this is, although we can go outside and do some things now, very restricted, but now we can go outside. It's going to be an interesting summer with those activities, and just pray the Lord will give us a good time together and just enjoy it.
Well, we will pray. Anything else, David?
You want to add something, girls?
No.
I will say that we always pray for their spiritual growth. And for wisdom for us as parents to point them in their different stages in life, point them to Christ. We fail as parents in always in many areas, and we try to use everything to point them to Christ and to grow in the Lord as a family. That's a change that we cannot make in their hearts. It is God's work. So yeah, praying for their spiritual growth. That's our main prayer request.
We will be praying for you. Girls, it's so good to see you. And Lloyd, it's so good to see you. Thanks for actually taking time. Tell us a little bit for people that may not know what's going on in Spain, maybe just a thumbnail sketch of what God's done in the last 10 years in terms of the ministry there in Leon. What's first of all, the culture there, of course, and the lack of Bible teaching churches, the lack of the gospel. So maybe you could start with there. What's Spain like in terms of a culture with the gospel? And then what's God done and summarizing in the last 10 years? And then we can talk about your ministry now.
Yes, culture and background in Spain is religious mostly. Spain used to be a very Roman Catholic country, one of the most Catholic countries in the world, alongside Italy, for centuries. And at one point, the church and state were together, and they had the influence and the power and all the resources. And they were really in charge of everything. So we didn't have religious freedom till really 40, 50 years ago, when we have a new constitution. And before that, the Spanish Inquisition persecuted truly believers. And also during the 20th century, we have a dictator by the name of Franco, and he was a very Roman Catholic leader. And he didn't allow either for many years, even the freedom to gather. You had a different belief or religion. So that's kind of the background. Now that's changing. The last 40, 50 years, we gained religious freedom. At the same time, the country developed a lot in many senses. And an outcome of that was a very openness to other things, for the good and the bad. And the Lord gave us grace with the local authorities. Back in 1992, the church asked for a land to build an evangelical church, because they were giving land for free property to the Roman Catholic Church. So it took 15 years, from 1992 to 2007, till finally they gave us the land for free, which this is unbelievable. It's really a miracle. 15 years of prayer and going back and forth with the city hall and the local government. So since then, we were praying, how can we do this? Build really a church building there that's unique in Spain. Most churches don't have their own building, and if they have it, it's a storefront. And churches are very small, because all of this history and background will be very difficult. But we started praying and doing as much as we could, and give sacrificially and put the word out. And in 2012, the Lord allowed us to start digging a hole, really. That was the money we had at that point, but we were trusting in the Lord and praying and just being part of it. And just last year, 7 years later, after we broke ground, 2019, October 2019, we had the dedication of the new church building, which is just a big testimony of God's greatness. He's sovereign, he's still in control. And
David,
yes,
can I ask you something about that building quickly? Tell us about the historical significance in terms of a standalone, freestanding evangelical church building in Spain.
Yes, that's unique in many senses, due to our history. We were not even allowed to meet. And now you have your own building in one of the main corners of the city, by the river. There's a park right there. You can see it from afar. It's in your way to the main hospital, next to the main mall. It's just prime location. And it's very significant, not only because all of that, but also because people identify here a church with a building. We know that the church is the body of Christ. We are the believers, the church, truly. But most people, you don't have a building, they wouldn't consider you as a legit church. So now, having a building, many more people are willing to at least visit us and come. For many years, I remember even inviting my friends, and they wouldn't come. They were suspicious, and they knew me well, and I shared the gospel with them. But it was this idea that we were a cult and what was going on there and all these biases. And now this building is giving us an opportunity that people feel free to just come in. Since the dedication, we have visitors. We used to have visitors before COVID-19 every Sunday, quite a few, and some of them return. So that's giving us an opportunity to really, once they are there, just share the gospel with them.
This is actually an historical moment, because is it true that really for the first time in the history of that region of Spain, in its entire history, there's actually an evangelical church building, standalone building?
Yeah. In our region is the only building we know, and in Spain is, I know there may be a couple, 3 more, but that's it in a whole country of 47 million people, and
Amazing.
nothing like what we have and how the government gave us the property, and it's just a resource for what God has been doing lately, especially in the last 10 years, as you were asking before. 10 years ago, not much was going on. We were just trying to be faithful, preach the word, preach Christ, with the desire to train others in the country to preach Christ and to shepherd churches. And in the last 10 years, the Lord has done so many things at the church with saving people, raising leaders. We started a seminary now that we have students from all around Spain, not only Spain, but Portugal, France, and even Germany and North Africa. And yes, the Lord is giving us a great time to put the word out and train others to lay
to me, this is amazing. This is even more amazing to me than the building, is because historically Spain, as you mentioned, has been a Roman Catholic country, and then it went into atheism, which is primarily an atheistic country now, correct? It's
very, very secular, very atheistic. Yeah.
And so, but in that culture, in the last 10 years, not only the building, which is kind of peripheral, but you're saying that there's been an explosion really of the gospel in that area compared to what it was prior. And you're saying that God has allowed you guys to start a training center there at the church, a seminary. And you said guys are coming from all over the region, Portugal, France, North Africa, coming, and all over Spain to be trained. And then they're now going back and either planting churches or beginning to preach the gospel. So maybe kind of elaborate on that. How many men are involved? Where are their ministries at right now? And how is that Lord using that ministry of training men?
Yes, this goes back to 2011. We started training our own men in our church Wednesday nights. And that was the start of the seminary, although we didn't tell them. Otherwise, they wouldn't come. They would be scared of seminary. But they were the men that were serving and preaching at that time at the church in different capacities, teaching. And from there, other people from southern Spain heard about that and asked us, could you do the same? But they were like 7 hours south driving. So we tried to figure out, how can we do this? We cannot go there once a week or something like that. So we put our program together where we were teaching our men and say, okay, we're gonna do a modular program. We'll go to you for an intensive weekend. And we're gonna put it together in 4 or 5 weekends a year. So you can still do your work, your secular job, and also your ministry, because most people here are bivocational, most pastors. So that worked out well. And after that, others started asking us to do the same. And we couldn't respond to everybody and travel everywhere. So we said, well, let's start the seminary officially and ask them to come to us with this modular format. So they can come, be trained for an intensive weekend. Then they have 8 to 10 weeks of homework. We follow every week online with them, with a tutor. So God started bringing guys to us from all around Spain. So now we have 50 graduates and currently 40 students, and literally from all around Spain, and some of them from Portugal, North Africa. This year we have a guy who comes all the way from Paris, another one who comes all the way from Germany, and they are Spanish-speaking people who live there. And even the Lord is giving us more opportunities. There are other guys asking us if we could do an extension in other parts of Spain or even Lisbon in Portugal. So we are considering that and praying about that. And it's just amazing. When I went to seminary, I graduated from TMS in 2004. I was the first Spaniard graduating from that seminary. And after that, we sent a few other men, and there is now 6 of us now in Spain. They all came back. And those are the professors and teachers. And 2 other guys, one of them, some of you know, and he partners with you too, Tam Molina, who is a graduate from the Cornerstone Seminary. Another one, Jona Recaman, also he shepherds in northwest part of Spain. So we have a core group of professors of 8 men, national men, who were trained, came back, and now we are training our men here in Spain, and this is just, you know, multiplying, and we are so excited to see that. So once we get to that point where, as you were saying, now there is a big need for church planting, because not all the time the churches want what these guys want to offer, just the gospel and just the preaching of the word and biblical counseling, how we of the scriptures and of God and all this emphasis we have. So now we are praying. There is a big need for churches in Spain. And at the same time, we have all these guys that sometimes they don't have a place where to minister. So we are praying that the Lord will allow us to plant churches. So this will also multiply with other churches and believers. So I would like to think that this is just the start.
Well, we're so thankful. I mean, really, when you look at the New Testament, that's the core of what the book of Acts was about, was the strategic importance of training men to then pastor, plant churches, and shepherd. Because when you have healthy churches, as you know, David, that are hearing God's word and Christ is central and Christ is exalted through the preaching of the word, those churches are healthy and they begin to impact their communities. So the real means of reaching Spain or any part of the world is God's people that are healthy and filled. So we're so grateful. I mean, that really just thrills us to hear that. And is there anything else as you think about ministry that we can pray for you now, or especially with COVID-19, has that impacted your ministry? And how can we pray for you guys in the midst of this and then moving forward?
Yes, of course, COVID-19 impacted us like everyone else, right? You guys in the States, everybody in the world. And Spain was one of the first countries that was impacted very badly after Italy. Well, China first, then probably mainly Italy, Spain. And Spain got to a point that was the number 1 country by million people, that deaths and people infected. So we have very strict confinement. We were in quarantine. We couldn't go out even for a walk. And that was hard. We couldn't have our church services, but you know, after 1 or 2 weeks, just realized, what we're gonna do, you know, just out of that shock. The Lord allowed us to start doing our online services, Sundays, and then our midweek services by Zoom. And then we started our discipleships, and then we started thinking, how can we use this situation to really share the gospel? So how can we do all we were doing, but from home or in this situation? So the Lord has been using it greatly. Our services multiply the viewers by 10, 15 times.
Wow.
And like in April and May, we have close to 10,000 viewers each month. For a country like Spain, like there's not many believers. And then also we have some of the church services were almost 2,000 viewers. And we can see it in the new building, like 400, and our congregation 150. So the impact that the Lord allow us to have, we'll never have it without COVID-19. And not only that, but the media guys told me that we're like 10 to 15 countries, Spanish-speaking countries, were following our services as well. So in the midst of all this confinement, just at home without anywhere to go, I will go to the church, record the service, go back home. We were really impacting many more people than before. So the Lord used it for good and for the advance of the gospel. Not only that, but we were very encouraged how we saw spiritual fruit in our congregation. as I was calling the church members and trying to stay in touch, trying to encourage them, I was so encouraged because they were encouraging me as they were trusting the Lord and as they were waiting on Him. And really, all this they were receiving, and it was taught to them. It made sense to them, and they were applying. Well, God is sovereign, and He's in control, and He's going to use it for good. And they meant it because some of them lost their jobs. Some others didn't know what was going to happen. We were all in a very strict lockdown. So that was very encouraging to see the fruit, what God is doing in the body, in the church members. And at the same time, the Lord allowed us through a donor to get some face masks when we were short of supplies in Spain and nobody had face masks. They sent a shipment all the way from Hong Kong, and I don't know how it went through customs because at that time they were, taking everything to the government. And we got this face mask, and we told the congregation, look, we want to give one to each of you and your family members, but just if you take another one, you give it to one of your neighbors or somebody you know. And then you got to take this track, what does it mean to be a Christian, and just share with them the gospel. Tell them, look, we want to give you this away. This is something we need now. Most of the people in our church did it. And they invited them to follow the service on YouTube and have conversations that like never before, because people had questions and fear, and so we haven't gone back to church yet. This coming Sunday is going to be the first Sunday, and we are still in quarantine, so limitation like in the States. So we don't expect many people to come because that's not the occasion. But we are praying that when all of this happens and goes away, Lord willing, the Lord will use all this time to bring people to church, and probably He saved some and we don't even know. So we are praying for that because they were exposed to the gospel in different ways, and we are very grateful for that. We think it was a great opportunity. It's been difficult times for everybody, but just remember how in Genesis 50, Joseph, after many years, decades, just suffering all kind of difficult times due to injustice and many other things, he met with his brothers after their dad died, and they were scared what's going to happen to us. And he just told them, look, you meant it for bad. I know I'm not silly. I know that. I know what you meant, but God meant it for good. And look what He has done. So that's the perspective we think we need to have. And we're looking forward to see the results of all of that, and just pray for that. Pray that we'll see spiritual fruit out of this.
David, thank you for sharing. That is good to hear. Wow, God's amazing that He would use that virus to spread the gospel in Spain the way He's done and around the world. We are just, Grace Church is just really blessed to partner with you and what God's doing with the team there in Leon, Spain, about 2 hours north of Madrid. I was there in February, just before the virus broke out. And so God was good and allowed me to be there. And anything you'd like to share with Grace Church before we say goodbye?
Well, just share our gratitude for your partnership. In many ways, it's difficult to find like-minded people in our country, even believers, but especially like-minded churches and ministers, and even in other parts of the world. So we have this love bound and this believing bound and this philosophy of ministry bound, and we have Christ and the same desire to preach Him and exalt Him. And we are so grateful to partner with you guys for your prayers, your support, but especially because we feel we are united, and every time we go there, we enjoy it. And just with Pastor John and Pam and their family, but the rest of the congregation. So we always, when I talk to my daughters or my wife, we are so grateful for this partnership because we know we are not alone. And there is other brothers like us that they are doing the same in the other part of the world. And we are very grateful for our partnership. So just thank you for praying for us. Just pray that the Lord will do many more things in the years to come for His glory, and we can rejoice in that together.
Thank you, brother. Hey, it is a joy to see you, to see your family, and a joy to partner with you in the gospel and bringing Christ to the nation of Spain. And it's really, really, truly is a national ministry that God's providentially raised up for you to be a part of. And thanks, brother. Thanks for spending time with us and sharing your heart with Grace Church. And thank you for being a part of this time. And we will see you, Lord willing, soon as this COVID's over and you're able to get back over and visit us. Thank you again, brother.
Thank you, and we love you, brothers.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.